I gave Teresa those two documents, if it comes up, if not, we'll put it in, old business.
I'll figure it out.
Okay. Get them in the record under old business. But I anticipate they'll come up.
Everybody good? Okay, good evening. It's July 11th, 2023. It's 5 o'clock. Lorain County Board of Commissioners meeting. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Madam Clerk.
We have a presentation today, Citizens for Equal Representation for Lorain County, Brian Hoagland, Homer Taft, and Dr. Mark Saling.
And I'm here.
Oh, I'm sorry. Commissioner Moore.
Here.
Commissioner Redette.
Here.
Commissioner Hunt.
We have a
We have a
quorum.
quorum. Presentation.
Okay, good evening. Brian.
Good evening. Thank you again for your time. As I spoke last time, Homer Taft and I did, we mentioned for Citizens for Equal Representation, we talked about Dr. Mark Saling and Bob Dyke of Triad Consulting and the fact that they're the ones who drew the map for us. They're both very well known for non-gerrymandered districts. They've done the district maps for Cuyahoga and Summit counties along with many others. And they're here today to talk about how they developed these 7 equal districts and what they did to make sure that they weren't gerrymandered, make sure we tried to get them to not split any city wards, to create a minority majority district, which they did both of those. So I'm going to let Dr. Mark Saling and Bob Dyke come up and give a little presentation about how they came up with the 7 districts in the map.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone.
Yeah.
I'm Mark, that's Bob.
Evening, Doctor.
Okay, so, how about getting me some light? So, just to let you know who we are, Triad is an organization that's been around for decades, and Bob was one of the founding members, I believe, and he's still associated with that. I have a part-time job at Cleveland State University, but for this, I am a consultant to Triad, and working on this project and some others that we've known each other for so long, we decided to work together on a number of these kinds of projects, okay? So that's us, and the goal of the project was to assist in providing a county council district plan that would enable a demographically and politically fair representation of the county's population. I hate to face this machine where my notes are, but
Well, fortunately,
not you.
yeah. But Doctor, if you don't mind, you can,
And I'm sorry.
No, you can talk into the microphone.
And
It's
the important, commissioners. I'm
no, but that's
sorry.
okay.
Plus, if you look forward.
I'm used to a lecture room, so
Yeah.
turn to my students.
If you look forward, you're on TV.
Okay, great.
And,
Okay,
and the
got it.
microphone, and everybody will be able to hear you.
Got it.
So,
Okay. So anyway, that was our goal. If you can read that, to produce a fair district plan, both demographically and politically, a fair representation for the county, should the county decide to implement such a plan. Our backgrounds, Bob Dykes is a founder of Triad Research Group, et cetera, and has years and decades of experience. I have a little less experience, but a fair amount as well. And I use this technology that is used to produce alternative plans for wards and county council districts and other kinds of geography. So I have all that technical experience as well. Our goals were, in terms of population equality, to have districts that were equal in population, as equal as possible. And the standard, by the way, is to have districts which vary within plus or minus 5% of the average district population. And so that was a goal. A second goal is to ensure that minority representation, African American, Hispanic, and other minorities are not adversely represent, or sorry, are adequately represented per the Voting Rights Act of 1965. That's sort of a federal mandate. And we prioritize keeping whole municipalities, villages, townships, and city wards together as much as feasible as possible. And districts must have an internal contiguity. That is to say, some areas, particularly in Elyria Township, are islands within the city of Elyria, and those had to be included within the surrounding area and not stand apart, because they should all be part of one geographic area, if you would. And to the extent reasonable, provide districts that reflect the overall partisan political composition of the county. So those are the goals. And the process was that we used demographic and political partisan voting data to produce a set of 7 draft council districts using the 2020 census and election results from the 2020 general election for statewide and federal positions. And the 2020 census data are also produced by race and Hispanic ethnicity, as well as other racial groups, and so we also looked at those data as well. And the 2020 election results for state and federal offices were used to indicate political partisan leanings. And we had a number of email exchanges and one video conferencing meeting with representatives from the group to discuss some alternative plans. We started with one possible plan and modified it here and there, tried to reduce the number of wards that were split, for example, or even precincts, and that sort of thing. So we ended up working closely with members of the organization that we represented, that we worked for on this. The results are a map with 7 districts, and that's the map that you can see there. I'll let you look at that for a second. They're numbered and also color-coded. And again, one of the goals was to keep municipalities, townships, and villages and cities whole to the extent possible. And in this case, we had to split North Ridgeville and the city of Lorain. And Elyria. Okay, so only 3 municipalities, Elyria, Lorain, and North Ridgeville, were divided by district boundaries. The map also shows the wards in those places. The wards show up as little red thin lines. I don't know if you can see it way back there, but hopefully you've got a copy of the map in front of you. And except where necessary due to the contiguity rule, only 1 ward in North Ridgeville was split by district boundaries. So all the wards in the county are kept whole except for 1. And even in that case, the precincts were kept whole, even though precincts do change depending on the Board of Elections requirements. So in terms of population and minority targets, the resulting proposed district boundaries meet the target goals concerning near population equality. All the districts, all 7, are within that plus or minus 5% of the average, and also giving representation to the county's minority, racial, and Hispanic populations. And we've got tables of that data if we want to look at it. The population variances are within the plus or minus 5%, and the greatest variance from the average was 3.82%. So within that 5%, that was the greatest range off of the average for one of the districts. And one district is a majority minority district at 56.5% minority, consisting of approximately 1/3 Hispanic, Latino, and 1/4 African American population. And there are a couple of the other districts also have significant numbers of those minorities, but not exceeding the 50% number. And the voting age minority population also exceeds 50%. The federal The Department of Justice usually looks at the voting age racial distribution rather than the overall population racial distribution in deciding whether or not they need to go further and to look at the issue of racial bias. So they look at the voting age population, so we also produce those numbers as well. And again, that one district with 56% minority also exceeds the 50% threshold on the voting age population as well. And in terms of partisan political advantage, using, again, the combined 2020 state election results, partisan strength in the districts are shown in this table. So those are the 7 districts. And you can see the percent of votes for Ds and a percent of votes for Rs in those 7. And you can look at those. And then generally competitive districts are those considered to have the 2 major political parties between 47.5% and 52%. Actually, it's 52.5%. That's an error. So anywhere between 47.5% and 52% around the 50% split is considered a pretty a competitive district. Beyond that, when you get up to closer to 55 and 45%, you can also consider those somewhat competitive, but certainly less so than those that are much closer to that 50%, 50-50 split. So again, based on that, you can look at the numbers there. It should also be noted that local election results are generally less based on political party and non-party affiliated registered voters in the county are approximately 68% of the total. So we think that for local elections like county districts, those statewide and federal voting data that we used may not be totally representative of the competitive nature of elections at the local level in the county. Okay? In addition, because local election results are based on a smaller numbers than the state numbers that we were looking at, there's also greater volatility in the results at the local level than the numbers we were using. That is to say, they might change from one election to another more quickly or more easily than the statewide office elections. Okay, so our conclusion is that the resulting map reflects the desire of the members of the committee to have an approximately representatively partisan lean, appropriate, a fair partisan map, basically is what I'm saying, and with competitive districts. As consultants to the committee, we believe that the resulting district plan meets the goals and objectives of the set forth. And I'd be happy to take questions.
Dr. Sally, you indicated the population and the trends and the sizing, the boundaries, and all that part of the process. Just to clarify for those on TV and in the audience, and when you went back and looked at the political makeup of the districts, was that a driver or was that an audit at the end to make sure that the districts did not distort the culture of Lorain County?
Yeah, the first criteria was to balance the population and try to maintain those political geographies, the cities, the townships, the villages, et cetera. And then as we produced a plan that met those criteria, we would then look at the partisan lean data to see what we were producing and to see whether or not it was, highly favoring one political party or the other in the resulting probable, based on those election results, whether it was unfair to one side or the other. The county is roughly split in terms of those state and federal numbers that we used. There's a slight advantage or slightly larger number of Republican votes than Democratic votes in the 2020 election for those elections. But it's very close. It's within like 2%, maybe 2.5%. So it's a pretty balanced county in terms of partisanship. And then, and I don't know how representative the 2020 election was, and my colleague, Mr. Dykes can speak better about those issues than I can, but if you'd like to go into those kinds of things further. You know, anything you want to add?
Just that it is a fairly balanced county, and because the census was in 2020, we had the election data from 2020. But just as an aside, in 2022, although the Republican Vance won the Senate election, the Democrat Ryan actually carried Lorain County by a small margin. So that gives you an indication, again, that Lorain County is really pretty much balanced at the present time between the two political parties.
Any other questions for us?
No,
Nope.
no, appreciate you guys coming in and explaining it, so.
Will you be in the audience should any other questions arise from the
Sure,
audience?
absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Under Resolutions Number 1, Investments.
Move to approve.
Second?
Discussion. Commissioner Moore?
Aye.
Commissioner Riddell?
Aye.
Number 2, Appropriations.
Any questions? These are the appropriations. Move to approve.
Second?
Discussion. Commissioner Moore?
Aye.
Commissioner Riddell?
Aye.
Number 3, Transfers.
Move to approve.
Second?
Discussion. Commissioner Moore?
Aye.
Commissioner Riddell?
Aye.
Number 4, Advances, Repayments, none. Number 5, Requisitions.
Page 1 of 2. Go to 2 to 2. This is page 2 of 2. Move to approve pages 1 and 2 of the requisitions.
Second?
Discussion. Commissioner Moore?
Aye.
Commissioner Riddell?
Aye.
Number 6, there was no travel. Number 7, Bills.
There's 3 pages here. Where's, okay, it's page 1 of, page 2, please. And page 3. And move to approve pages 1 through 3.
Second?
Discussion. Commissioner Moore?
Aye.
Commissioner Riddell?
Aye.
Number 8, Commissioners may recess an executive session to consider the appointment, employment, dismissal, discipline, promotion, demotion, or compensation of public employee or official.
Move to approve the personnel summary sheet.
Second?
Discussion. Commissioner Moore?
Aye.
Commissioner Riddell?
Aye.
C, public comment on agenda items.
Okay. This is public comment section. People filled out some public comments they want to talk about. This part here is in regards to the agenda item and/or the presentation. Any comments in regards to anything other than that should be reserved for the public comment at the end of our meeting. So I do have Michael DiCarlo for item number 12. Oh, okay, which is in regards to the 7 districts, okay.
Exactly, sir. Michael DiCarlo, 320 Alberta Vermilion. I applaud you for having actually a political wherewithal to actually propose this. It is written in the Declaration of Independence that at any time that the people feel that a government is abusing its authority or power, I can read it to you if I want. It's on page 35 of the Little Pocket Constitution I carry, right? They have the right to alter or abolish it, and I applaud you for actually saying that let the will of the people be done. If this passes, I'm in support of it. And until we actually flesh this out and see where we can go, I think that the people should have a choice because they won't do it for themselves. All right, thank you.
Okay, thanks for coming in. And Mike, you also wanted to speak in the public comment, it looked like, okay. Ms. Jean Anderson?
I'm going to,
Wait till public comment? Yes. Okay. Ginger Awig? Ginger, or not?
Georgia.
Georgia, sorry. And I know George, I can't believe it. I'm like, sorry, some of these signatures I can't even read. I'm like going. My apologies.
Georgia Awig, 9125 Quail Court, Northridge, Ohio. And I feel like I've always been represented by the commissioners, but I feel like maybe the 7-commissioner plan might be a good idea. But I think it's a great idea to let the voters decide if they want that or not. So I would suggest that it be put on the ballot for them to decide in the fall or whenever it can be.
Holy smokes, minute and a half left.
No, that's okay.
Don't count.
Chuck? Chuck? Wait. You want to speak in the public section too? You only put one. Okay, okay.
Short. Good afternoon, Commissioners. This is just about how Revised Code 302. Pardon me?
Oh, you're good, go ahead.
But anyway, there are some things I didn't understand here when listening to the presentation, and I looked into Ohio Revised Code 302. Now, in Ohio Revised Code 302, it says that we're going to have 5 new commissioners if you count the county executive. Is that correct?
No.
I think the statute says between 3 and 21. The county
Well-
executive is not a commissioner.
Well, so the county executive then has total and complete power over the commissioners,
No,
No,
able to veto.
no,
no.
That's not according to the revised code. It says it has veto power.
no.
He's the number one employee reporting to the commission.
And section 302.18 says that they have, the county executive has power for veto.
No.
No.
Okay. My second question is what's the budget plan? Do we have a budget plan for 4, maybe 5 new positions?
That will be up to the new board to decide.
Okay. And what's our budget plan for putting it on the ballot? Where's the money come to put it on the ballot?
Same place is coming from all the rest of them, so.
Well, when last year, we ran short on the excise tax to even put it on the ballot. Commissioners came to us and asked us for money to put it on the ballot. $20,000 short to put the excise tax on the ballot. We came up with $12,500 to put it on the ballot. Are we going to do that again, or are we have the money, or are we running short?
Okay, thanks.
That's my question.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Gerald Phillips. Is he here?
He's back here.
Did he- Oh, I know. I just,
Not long enough, Joe.
Well, you got rid
that
of
was from the prosecutor's office. Okay, I don't,
you got rid of the 3-minute rule. Now you got 2 minutes and 2 minutes. Gerald W. Phillips, 461 Windward Way, Avon Lake, Ohio. I want to talk about the alternative form of government. You don't have a lot of choices. Like for the executive, you got to pick an appointed or an elective, and then you got to decide how many districts, whether they're at large or not. But one of the advantages of the alternative form, in the other sections, you can set up a personnel department, a law department, finance department, and something for waters and sewers. So it's just more than electing an executive or not, or appointing one. It does have that feature. There's been a lot of time spent in getting the 7 districts and a lot of statistics. This is just my opinion. I think it would not be efficient to try to reinvent the wheel on that. It seems to be relatively fair. So one of the options you could have 7 districts, and then you can have 2 at large. The 2 at large could be the president and the vice president, and they would run countywide. So you would have 9, which would be odd. So that's an option. And there's pros and cons of the elected versus appointed executive. A lot of people like the traditional 3 branches of government: executive, legislative, and judicial, and that would tend to go with the elective. But the appointed has its advantages too, because it's appointed by the commissioners, and in that case, they can vet the so-called county executive as far as qualifications. I mean, you could put some kind of parameters on it, so that's an advantage of that option. And the question that was raised about the veto power, I'm reading 302.18D, and unless I have an old version,
You got the correct version, Jerry.
I got the correct version?
Pretty confident.
Yeah, it says the county executive, under the elective executive plan, shall have the power to veto any ordinance or resolution adopted by the Board of County Commissioners. So that gentleman was right.
No, excuse me, Jerry. It says under the elective plan. The plan
Oh.
under consideration is
We're not
the
doing,
appointive plan.
yeah, we're not
Oh,
doing.
elective.
Yeah, we're
I'm
not,
sorry.
yeah, we're not doing the elective plan.
Sorry, and I was nice
And-
to you and said that, so.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But thanks,
well,
Jerry.
got 'em
You're pretty
confused.
much already at your max, so.
One other comment,
No, well, Jerry, you've already
All right.
surpassed your 2 minutes, so. But yeah, if you do read the statute, it does say,
Statute is under the elective executive plan
But
and
this-
the appointive executive, the elective executive plan and the appointive executive plan are different largely in the fact that it's an elected office, right? I think Jerry's correct in the
Aiden? You wanna
3
come up?
branches
Aiden Fogel?
idea. But,
Did you want to come up?
yeah, the appointed executive does not have veto power under the
Right,
statute.
right.
Someone from the committee may choose to address that issue.
Well, maybe not right now, we'll just keep.
Aiden Fogel, Sheffield Lake. So, instead of wasting time talking about the $20,000 or more that is floating around between Dave, Jeff, this PAC, the Citizens Equal Representation for Lorain County, and Brian Hoagland, or the June 2nd, 2023 substantial county Corsa contract with Oswald Taylor that was brokered by none other than their Vice President of Sales, Mr. Brian Hoagland, who you just heard from today, or asking why John Gall still hasn't been terminated for his involvement in the criminal conspiracy with the former county administrator. I'm going to make this short and sweet, and I'm going to implore any of the first responders of Lorain County, their friends, their family, that might be watching this today, to remember the celebratory fist bump between Dave and Jeff when they rescinded the legal and binding CCI radio contract, and the UAW members who Dave and Jeff ignored, couldn't even look at them when they were passionately begging for medical care. Jeff told them to make do with what they have for right now. I was actually embarrassed for you, Jeff. I mean, so I want to get everyone that they know to get registered to vote, get out early, send these tyrants a message. It's obvious from the amount of time and money that Dave and Jeff have invested in this little communist pipe dream that this is their passion. So everyone that has been victimized by these would-be dictators has an opportunity to take that dream away from them and give them a taste of what 2024 is going to look like. Thank you.
Thank you. Mike Poklovich?
Good afternoon. My name's Mike
evening.
Locklich. I live in Amherst, Ohio, Brownhelm Township. I just want to come here to commend you and thank you for all that you do for the citizens and the taxpayers of Lorain County. You put your self-interest aside, just like with the 7 districts that they've nicely documented and formatted for our consideration and for your consideration for putting it on the ballot. And one thing that's very disappointing is these negative name-calling comments that I see from certain individuals up here that's uncalled for. I don't know why they think that what they're doing in doing such things. You know, I worked in this building for many years with Grant Keys, Fred Rittenar, Dorothy Essex, and everything, and I've never seen so much negativity ever that I see from a few people all the time coming up here, just griping about everything that you do. So I want to thank you very much for putting your own self-interest aside and doing what you feel is best for the county and putting District 7 proposal on the ballot to let the voters make the decision. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. I think, Tia, did you want to speak at this point or at the public comment? Okay. Brian Hoagland, would you like to speak at this point? Oh, there he is. Okay.
Thank you. Brian Hoagland, 312 Rutgers Court, Elyria. First, I'm going to bypass some of my comments and just make a comment about the political, the attack I just received. So in Lorain County, I coached 7th and 8th grade football at St. Jude for 22 years, no pay. I was on the board at Elyria Memorial Hospital for 10 years and chairman of the board for the last several years, no pay. I was involved in Elyria Catholic, 3 different committees, endowment board, finance committee, and another one, no pay. I was on the Salvation Army of Lorain County Board of Advisors, no pay. Boys and Girls Club of Lorain County, no pay. St. Mary's Sports Committee, president, 15 years, no pay. St. Jude Sports Committee, no pay. I don't do what I do and support things in Lorain County for political or for financial gain. I do them because I want to make Lorain County a better place, which is exactly why I'm doing this right now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now,
Hey,
response to some comments previously. One comment was made that $56,000 will not attract good candidates. Cuyahoga County in 2009 or so went to 11 districts for $45,000, and they had 96 candidates for those 11 spots. Summit County has 11 as well, and their current pay, after they've increased it recently, is $45,000. At $56,000, we're well above both of those. We will attract really good candidates. No question about it. With 7 districts, we'll have more diversity and inclusiveness, more decision-making for a lot of different people in the county, and people in the different areas of the county will have a vote, which they have not had. With every decision in the area of the county, we'll get a voice, and they will get a vote. I can't repeat that enough. 2 people right now, it seems like, decide everything for Lorain County. I think most people would agree that 2 is not enough. Oftentimes, it's one person via a change in vote, change in political party, change in something where there's one swing voter. That's not healthy for Lorain County. With 7, at least it'll take it to 4 people that make decisions for the Lorain County to make things happen, instead of 2 where it is right now. Twice we had 13,000 signatures when we tried for the 7 districts at a charter form of government. We have foregone that to appease many people, and now we're going to just the 7 districts without the charter. It was on the ballot. It could have been on the ballot twice. We had political and legal issues that caused it to not get on the ballot, but the point is that the residents of Lorain County want this on the ballot. They want to at least be able to vote for or against this. So whether you all are for or against it is immaterial right now in my mind. The important thing is to give the people of Lorain County a choice to vote for this or not to vote for this. Let them decide. So we aren't asking you to decide yes or no for the 7 districts. We're asking you to let it go before the voters. Let them decide.
Okay, thanks, Brian.
That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your
Thank
time.
you. Ethlyn Kennedy, did you?
Ethlyn Kennedy, 35230 Downing Avenue, North Ridgeville, Ohio. I have a few questions that, if they have been answered to this point, I haven't heard it in the presentation. So if that has been addressed, then you can let me know. But it's talking about if we go to the 7 districts, then it would be a part-time job for each of the 7 commissioners. I haven't heard a definition of how many hours would be considered part-time and how would those number of hours be monitored. Second, Mr. Hoagland said that 7 campaigns for 7 districts would be cheaper than 3 at-large campaigns. I'd like to hear proof as to what he used to support that. The county is still the same size, there's still the same number of voters, so whether it's 3 people running or 7, I don't think it would cost less. Mr. Hoagland also cites salaries as being an increase in taxes to support a 7-district county government. And I'm wondering what about 4 new offices, staff for each of the 4 new commissioners, and any benefits that the commissioners are eligible for. And I believe just earlier on this evening, you mentioned that it would be up to the new commissioners to set the budget. Well, that leaves the voters to vote blindly as to what they're doing for cost and how much it's going to cost them. I was wondering who specifically picked the 7 districts and why. I understand it can be from 3 to 21, and I'm not recommending any specific number, but I wonder where that came from. Republicans are supposed to want smaller government, and this would lead to more government. I was wondering about the possibility of staying with the 3, but instead of being at large, divide the county into 3 districts. Then at least people in the individual districts would have a specific commissioner that was representing them. Just a suggestion. And then I'm also questioning why all of a sudden is this being presented and we got to have it on the November ballot. I feel there should be time for more public meetings, chance for people to present their ideas. This is good that there's one here tonight, but it's very short time for the voters to think about it.
Thanks, Ethlyn.
Thank you.
Lori Baxter?
I'm Lori Baxter from 160 Burns Road, Elyria. Thank you very much, Commissioners, for offering us the opportunity to come and give public comment. I wish to commend the creators of this plan. I can see that a lot of work has gone into it, trying to make things fair and equitable. I am in favor of the idea. It seems to me, as a reasonably intelligent person, it seems to me that you're striving to represent the citizens fairly, equitably. Anytime I see us going from 1 representative for approximately 100,000 citizens down to 1 representative for approximately 45,000 citizens, that seems like a good idea to me. And a closer representation of the citizens, I liken it to 1 teacher in a classroom for 50 students compared to 1 teacher in the classroom for 20. similar type principle. I like the idea that the gentleman who created this used the already established boundary lines, the city wards. No reason to go out and create more work, reinvent the wheel, and do more boundary lines. So tonight, I stand in support of the 7-district plan, and I ask you commissioners to vote in favor of placing this plan before the Lorain County voters in the fall. Thank you.
Thanks, Laurie. Tia, you've changed your mind? Yeah. Are you speaking just, well, okay.
Tia Hilton, Amherst, Ohio. I say put it on the ballot and let the people decide. I also attempted to do a charter in the city of Lorain, and apparently you see what happened with it. They stacked the deck, put in all that work, had to get it voted down. But this is good. If you want change, you have to make change. You have to try to make change. And Mr. Fogel, who likes to attack people, he don't even write his own crap.
Keep it about the agenda here,
Dave,
please.
can I say one thing?
Go ahead, finish it up.
He's a 3-time felon, so the
No,
gentleman
okay,
in the
Tia,
back.
that's enough, Tia, that's enough. No.
Keep it on the business of the county.
Keep it on the business, thank you, Tia.
Thank you.
Homer Taft, would you like to come up and speak? That's enough. Homer, thanks for coming in.
President Moore, Commissioner Riddell, ladies and gentlemen, I'm Homer Taft, 3972 Edgewater Drive, Vermillion, and for the record, an attorney at law. My principal purpose is to try to address some of the questions that may have been raised by others. But I will say that, you know, when I hear the negatives, I hear what I feel is fear. And I hear an opinion that we shouldn't change from 200 years. And I hear that we know what's best for the folks, they don't want it. What Citizens for Fair Representation is asking for is let's ask the folks what they want. So the issue has been raised, what's the cost of the election? Pretty much nothing. An election has to be held November 7th. Whether this is on the ballot or not, it's going to cost about the same. It's going to be the same number of precincts, same number of workers, same number of ballots, and so forth and so on. There's been discussion of what the cost might be for part-time versus whatever. I'm sure that the current commissioners would find it particularly humorous that your jobs are considered part-time. But the fact is, they're going to spend a lot of time for what is being asked of them. And what we're asking is to have a very diverse group that complies with the Voting Rights Act, a very inclusive group that has enough people in it to represent the county, and a small enough district that folks get to know their representatives. So I believe that overall the costs down the line are going to be much better than they are now, because they're going to have a lot more people with a lot more talents and a lot more knowledge and a lot more work for this county to make things better. I can't, in the time allotted, answer all of Ms. Kennedy's questions, but the reason for 7 districts is because it does get to that representation. As another speaker said, 100,000 per district and 45,000 per district is a very different thing. Why now? Especially, why now? Because it has to go into effect January 1, 2024. It has to be on the November election, or you're going to wait for years. Those of us who have worked on these ideas don't want to wait years to fix county government as a better, more inclusive, more diverse place to be. So I would urge you to listen to all of the citizens, but more importantly, ask all the citizens what we want. Let's have a campaign. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about the pros as well as the negatives, and let the folks decide what they want. Thank you.
Thanks, Homer. This issue is on number 12 on the agenda. We can do a couple things here. Jeff, we can either, you and I can have a discussion right now, because I feel since we don't have a full board, I do not feel that we should be voting today on whether or not to put it on the ballot. I believe we should take the information we have here. We're going to receive a lot of emails, I believe. There'll be some press coverage, and I believe this board should make a decision on Friday, if that's okay. I mean, are you?
I support that, and considering the conversation today, I would encourage those that, for instance, don't have a great knowledge of it yet. It's early in the campaign, there's 90 days till November, but there's certainly, take heed of the people that are in the room, your fellow citizens that have an opinion, and as Homer and Brian have said, don't be afraid to ask questions. And for those of you that want to know about the districts and how they were made and why there's 7, sitting in the front row is the keeper of the keys of those rules and has been using those for decades. So I think the committee brought him here for a reason, and I would not waste the opportunity to talk to him. But I agree it should go. We should postpone it. It's an important issue that we should have the full board and allow another 3 days till Friday for people to communicate thoughts and ideas via email.
Or any other forms of
Or other
communication.
forms. Email better than telephone.
Yeah. And again, it's a very simple resolution. It's a very simple agenda item. I should say, or a C item. In 1961, again, this is when it first came out, I believe it was 68 to 69, that this was put on the books. But what elected official will run for office and then put on the ballot, cut my pay and dilute my power for representation? That's why you haven't seen it done. Dick Williams, New Russia Township, and those trustees tried doing this when I first ran for commissioner in 2000. I heard the campaign. Betty Blair campaigned against it, and it was a very nice campaign because I was running for the first time. And I got to hear both parties. Betty Blair's position at the time was, if you don't like your commissioners, you vote them out. The other side felt, as the townships felt for years and still do, that they feel like they're not being represented. And so but they did it, and there was only 5 at-large candidates. I didn't agree with that because I felt you may have had up with 5 in one community still. I got involved in this back about 10 years ago. We were trying to do a charter form of government. We could probably write some time on how that went down. We tried twice. I was involved in the signature gathering twice. I met a lot of people. And we looked at the voters, and it was 50-50 D's and R's. And sorry, I don't want to offend my libertarian friends here, Mr. Taft, but it was a very well balanced of why people kept saying they didn't like the way things were being done. And that was, 8 years ago. So I ran on it. I know Commissioner Riddell ran on it. Our support group supported us because they knew this is what we were going to do in 2021. I didn't have a second all of a sudden, and now I do. So we're going to be looking at this, and we're going to be hearing everybody's input, but at the end of the day, I believe the public has a right to decide yes or no. That's all we are doing. If you want to debate this, I'm sure this group is going to be available to any community, any organization to debate on how they came up with the numbers, how it was done. I can tell you right now, this is a very legitimate, straightforward group of people that I can tell you right now are on the opposite side of me politically, okay? But it's amazing when opposite sides can come together for representation of government. And that's what we came together on, is to make sure that everybody had a fair access to your commissioners, fair and balanced elections. And that's why I will support this on Friday, for you, the people, to decide whether or not you would like this form of government. It's not a charter. This was only tried once in 2000 at 5 at-large. This is the second attempt, but it's divided up into 7 districts and you saw the presentation. And I'm honestly, after 10 years, I'm excited that we, the people, will have a choice. And that's all this is today. So, do you have something?
Mr. President, I would like to, while we're on this subject, and I thank you for taking the item a little bit out of order, out of the respect for the time of the people here. Teresa, could you put the first of those two documents I gave you in the projector? We want to clarify some comments that were made at the last meeting. This one, you probably can't read it on the TV, but I'm sure that our friends in the media will be able to include this in their story. But there was a comment made that at a meeting that Secretary of State Lorain was opposed to this project, and of course, his title carries a lot of weight because the Secretary of State is involved in elections and the election process. And he was speaking to a group of people. The individual that spoke at the last meeting was not in that room and mischaracterized either by accident or was given bad information. And I reached out to Secretary of State Lorain and asked him to clarify that. He issued an email for the public record to clarify his position. He did not want to be misrepresented. The second document, Teresa, is that for some reason, Commissioner Moore and I are not allowed to have a personal opinion and still be a commissioner. Or we're supposed to not vote for things we believe in, which means we're supposed to vote for things we don't believe in. And I can't really find the wisdom in those two issues, but we have from Mr. Petticord, who's here in case anybody wants to talk to him after the meeting. We have his review that it's not a conflict of interest to invoke a legal right under the Ohio Revised Code, which Section 302 is. We have a right to put this, if we're asked, to put it on the ballot. And we were asked, and we're putting it on the ballot. I think our direction is pretty clear. And while we appreciate the discussion about the concept at this time, it's put it on the ballot and have a campaign. Because America has shown that you gotta have something at stake to have a conversation. If there's nothing, if there's no impetus, if there's no deadline, if there's no, result, things don't get discussed in depth. When we have a November election deadline, history has shown that we will debate the issue thoroughly between now and November. So the answer is that's why now. But thank you, and thank you, Mr. Petticord, for your opinion.
Okay. I don't think we have any old business.
We do not have old
Okay.
business.
On Friday, if you don't mind, under old business, if you could take item number,
Well, hold on, 11? I think what we're gonna get to when we get to 11 is my guess is there will be a motion to postpone
yeah.
item 11 to Friday's agenda, at which point it would appear on the agenda.
Okay, well, then I'll slow
That
down.
would be a guess.
I'll slow down.
Okay.
Okay. Okay.
11 is
Well, I'm
the,
thinking.
Okay, let's go
That's what I
on.
was gonna ask
No,
too.
12,
so
12,
that
I'm
goes
sorry.
through yours.
thank you, 12.
Let's go to board business.
Board business. Number 9, approve and waive the reading of the county commissioners meeting.
So
on June
moved.
30th.
Second?
Discussion. Commissioner Moore.
Aye.
Commissioner Riddell.
Aye.
Number 10, request Lorain County Auditor pursuant to Ohio Revised Code 5705.03 and 5705.19 LL to certify to Lorain County Commissioners the total current tax valuation of the county and the dollar amount of revenue that would be generated by .25 mil additional for 5 years for the criminal justice services under Section 307.45A7 for the support of the County Crime Drug Lab, and Section 307.45A6, County Coroner for the support of Lorain County and placed on November 7, 2023 ballot, commencing on the duplicate year 2023, collection for 2024.
So moved.
Second?
Discussion.
Yes.
Yes.
Would you like, go ahead.
Mr. President, well, for those in the crowd and those on TV, this is part of the process. If we're going to look at doing something for a tax basis, we have to go to the auditor and get a determination and so forth. The crime lab and the coroner's office is under tremendous stress right now due to the drug situation, and there's a need there to get there a dependable revenue stream that will not be subject to, you know, the whims of an annual budget. They need to have a budget stream that is dedicated to them, that they can count on in doing the things that they need to do. So it's part of the war on drugs. It's part of trying to, you know, get the issue under control in Lorain County and get it out of the politics of the budget process. But this is not a mandate to put it on the ballot yet. It starts with, what would a quarter of a mil cost, and will that do what we need it to do?
Okay, this was brought up in the summer of '21. I supported, put it on the ballot. The public was misinformed. Those rules and those games started to be played, and the current crime lab is in the basement of this building. The plan was, when I supported this in '21, was to move it over to the 5th floor to the Justice Center and to create an accredited crime lab. I asked the county coroner to help with us and to promote it, which he did. In September of '21, I reversed my position because the power has shifted and they were going to leave the crime lab in the basement. We lost a 15-year employee over that, and the mill or the levy failed by like 3%. I am bringing this back to the public to say that we need the money. It needs to be done properly. I'm not asking the coroner. I need to publicly apologize for making him do that. But I'm not asking him to do it this time. I have no problem campaigning on behalf of a levy. Right now, the ask, which if you want to have some fun, come on out Friday, we are going to pass a tax budget. We're going to be discussing that on Friday. The ask from all the elected officials in our departments are $9 million more than last year. How are we going to make up for that? Well, I think with Jeff and I and the other commissioner, we'll have to do some beating up on a lot of budgets. But everything that we're asking today in regards to this levy is funded out of our general fund. It's in a 0.25% will cover that and change our crime lab to become an accredited crime lab, which will hopefully generate some revenue for Lorain County and our crime lab. So that is why I'll be supporting the levy. And I have no problem campaigning on behalf of that levy, because we have to alleviate the pressures of the general fund, because I'm not about to raise that sales tax just for general fund purposes. So that's why this levy is here. It was here before, and I wanted at least the public to hear it from me and why, because I said it back then in September of '21, why I was switching my mind. This time it's going to go forward. It's going to be done properly. And I'm not about to pass a tax and not do anything with it, which is what was going to happen last time. That's on that issue. On the other issue, I have asked the county assistant prosecutor, Mr. Petticord, to review one of our other levies, the TB clinic or the TB levy. And so if you don't mind, Mr. Petticord, to reach out on what's going on, what we're talking about in that levy.
Well, as the board, we talked about with the board several months ago, there's been some new guidance, I would say, issued by the Attorney General that opens up the opportunity for some of the testing the county is mandated to do for tuberculosis to be done by the health department. And the health department came in, I believe, in the winter and said that they were prepared to do that and prepared to assist, and that they felt that they could handle that work. That's stuff that the county now has to contract for at a significant cost. There is other pieces to what we're required to do for tuberculosis that the county may still have to contract for. My office is in the middle of doing that research now. My assumption at this point is if there has to be an additional contract, it would be for a much lower rate and a much lower amount than is currently necessary. And I think, it's not my place to say this, but I assume that would allow the board to free up some of the money or perhaps forego at least a partial collection of that levy if the board chooses.
Yeah, that's attorney talk.
It is. It's going to cost you less money. How about
Yeah,
that?
how's that? Yeah. Basically, we got close to $1 million in that fund, I would say, and we're funding it through a hospital and about $300,000 to $400,000 a year. The health department says they can do it. They only get about 8 cases a year. and then they would bill out to the hospital. It's gonna be a lot cheaper, so we could actually repeal, or is that the word, repeal, or,
Well, I believe, I'd have to look at I hate
Yeah.
when you do this, because I don't have the levy in front of me.
Okay, I'm
You-
sorry.
You forego collection of the levy for a certain number of years, and then you could.
we think we
choose not
could,
to Take it.
yeah, we don't wanna, like, what we're gonna do is probably, I hate to use the word repeal, because that's not the word.
No, it's not.
But it's like, what's it called?
Use.
Not reduce, we already did that.
We're
We're gonna just put it on hold. We're gonna put it on hold for 10 years.
I believe you forego collection.
Forego collections for 10 years, there's enough money to do that.
Yeah.
So that levy would no longer be an issue.
Yeah, what we, just to, more specific, that's the issues. The health department will be able to do the testing, which we're
Correct.
paying a significant amount for right now. That's right in the health department's wheelhouse. They'll be able to do that, we believe. The question is treatment for those some cases, those very small number of cases per year, how that's covered for people who do not have insurance. That's effectively what
about
we're
it.
talking about, yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of money in there, and we're talking levies, so I want to at least let the public know we're looking at reducing one of them, so, yes.
Mr. President, I see some mystified faces out there, and the TB levy and the proposed crime lab.
Are two different things.
Two different.
The difference is that we're looking for money for someplace we need it, and we're trying to deal with someplace where we're collecting money that we don't need it.
That's even better.
Okay, it's just that simple, but because the levy was passed for a certain use, that money has to be banked for that use. We just can't decide to shove it from one account into the other. And I want to give Commissioner Moore credit for the battle that occurred a couple of years ago, and the difference between the fifth floor of the Justice Center and the basement of this building is not how plush the conditions are. Wouldn't it be nice if the crime lab and the custody of all the drugs that were used in cases were in the same building, where the chain of custody between the prosecutors and the judges and the trials and so forth would all be in the same place? One of the jokes that I've heard in the first 6 months is you can't believe how many people are ordered across the way at the Justice Center to get a drug test by a judge, and they can't find the county administration building. They got lost.
You get tested, yeah.
So their test didn't occur on the timeliness it was ordered because they just couldn't find this administration building. So we think that we're trying to allocate the space and provide properly so that there's no lost evidence, there's a chain of custody, and that the system of justice works well. So that's the difference between the fifth floor over there and the basement over here. It's not the working conditions as much as it is the problem with dealing. They're the only part of the justice system that's over in this building.
And there's also, to get the accreditation, you have to have a certain amount of square footage, certain amount of employees, and for us to take our crime lab to the next level, we have to have the space.
Oh, and by the way,
And
the fifth floor, due to the wisdom of the previous commission and voters, is empty right now.
Well, I was getting ready to say, I remember 23 years ago when we built it, they said, we're gonna need more judges and more it's been almost 20 years since we cut the ribbon and opened up the Justice Center. That fifth floor is still empty, so why not use it? And why not do something positive for the community, so, okay.
Anything further?
Nah, we'll keep going if you don't hurry up.
Commissioner Moore?
Aye.
Commissioner Taft?
All right.
Number 11, request Lorain County Auditor pursuant to Ohio Revised Code 5705.03 to certify Lorain County Board of Commissioners the total current tax valuation of the county and the dollar amount of revenue that would be generated by .50 mil additional for 5 years for Lorain County 911 Agency for the November 7, 2023 ballot, commencing on the duplicate year 2023 for collection in 2024.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion.
Again, this is being sent to the auditor so that we can gather a dollar amount in order to operate 911. I would say, maybe not today, Mr. County Administrator, maybe at the meeting we're ready to vote. Would you be ready to lay out the options at that time? Because I know they've been working on it with, okay.
Anything further?
No, we'll wait. Like I said, there'll be, unless you want to go into more detail now.
No, other than there's a process, and because the deadline is August 9th to get on the ballot, if there's a choice, this work has to be done in July.
No, okay. That's fine.
Okay. Commissioner Moore?
Aye.
Commissioner Riddell?
Aye.
Number 12, submit to electors of Lorain County, Ohio. Well, did you get?
Do you want
You
to,
have to still make a,
do we have to
Gonna
read?
read it,
Okay.
and then you hold it.
someone, I hope, will make a motion to postpone. It will be seconded, and then you'll vote on it.
Hopefully,
It'll be
right?
postponed till Friday.
Okay.
If your intent is to vote on it Friday.
There is no motion, that's why I'm reading it.
I know.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Submit to the electors of Lorain County, Ohio, the question of adopting the form of county government known as Lorain County 7 Districts Appointive Executive Plan with a board of 7 county commissioners, with 0 shall be elected at large and 7 shall be elected by districts, provided for in sections 302.01 to 302.24, inclusive of the Ohio Revised Code, to be placed on the November 7, 2023 ballot.
I move to postpone.
Second?
Commissioner Moore?
Aye,
Commissioner Riddell?
Aye.
Postponed till Friday.
till Friday.
Correct. Under Workforce Development, 13, approve an MOU, Lorain County Workforce Development Agency and Lorain County Community Development Corp., DBA 1 Lorain County, to provide reimbursement of agreed-upon staff costs for services being provided in support of the Business Resource Network subgrant. WGA will reimburse 1 Lorain County in the amount not to exceed $79,166.88 for the period of July 1st, 2023 through June 30th, 2024, and this will be paid from the account WIA Adult Dislocated Worker Youth Funds.
Move to approve.
Second?
Discussion. Commissioner Moore?
Aye,
Commissioner Riddell?
Aye.
14, approve an interagency agreement between Lorain County Workforce Development Agency and Lorain County Community Development Department to provide reimbursement of agreed-upon staff costs of services being provided in support of the Business Resource Network subgrant. WDA will reimburse community development in the amount not to exceed $115,249.56 for the period of July 1st of 2023 through June 30th of 2024, and this will be paid from the account We Adult Dislocated Worker Youth Funds.
move to approve.
Second?
Discussion.
Yes, I'd like to bring in our county administrator, Mr. Armbruster.
Thank you, Mr. President. These two proposals, 13 and 14, actually brings workforce development to the table with funds that actually were not being used by them and actually go back into the fund to the state of Ohio. So workforce development worked with One Lorain County, which is really Lorain County Chamber, and they formed One Lorain County for economic development purposes, as well as the community development, which is upstairs, which is part of the county, to offset the funding of employees, new employees, for at least 1 year. I know that this is only a one-year grant, and I'm sure that the workforce development staff and the community development, as well as One Lorain County, will be working for a grant beyond this for funds that actually go back into the pot that to the state of Ohio, but we are actually not sending them back to the state of Ohio. And was granted the use of this money for this purpose for the Business Resource Network subgrant to work forward. So it's a combination of using workforce development, county, and private industry to try to make our money and help our county grow economically.
Okay.
Anything further?
Yeah.
Well done.
Commissioner Moore?
Aye,
Commissioner Riddell?
Aye.
Engineer, 15, approve and enter in a subdivider agreement with North Grafton Realty LLC for Barrington Park Subdivision Number 10, Eaton Township. Subdivider has submitted all documents and the engineer has approved.
so moved.
Second?
Discussion. Commissioner Moore?
Aye,
Commissioner Riddell?
Aye.
16, amend Resolution 23-142, adopted February 8th of 2023, approving a change order for the construction administration inspection contract with Greenman Peterson, Inc. for the Broadway resurfacing waterline replacement project in Sheffield Township in the city of Lorain. Said amendment is to reflect an increase of $10,000 to finalized project, and total amount for local share is $115,865.81, and this will be paid from the Q Construction Broadway water main account.
so moved.
Second?
Discussion. Commissioner Moore?
Aye,
Commissioner Riddell?
Aye.
17, approve an addendum to a subdivider agreement with FLG Eaton Crossing LLC, Jeremy Rosen, subdivider for Eaton Crossing subdivision number 2 in Eaton Township. Addendum is with respect to the plat of the subdivision and easement for off-site stormwater management.
So moved.
Second?
Discussion. Mr. Moore?
Aye.
Mr. Riddell?
Aye.
Public comment.
Okay, Michael? Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. President, Mr. Riddell.
It's good to see you again.
It's good to be seen. It's better, it's better than being viewed. Michael DeCarlo, 320, Alberta, Vermilion. I wanted to bring to your attention that within your jurisdiction, within the police state of Lorain, that there was a negligent discharge of a firearm. It was a dog that was killed by a police officer on Oberlin Avenue and 8th Street. And if you are able to watch that video and see how many people were out around and surrounded that police officer once he did that shortly thereafter, you have to understand that neighborhood is full of people. And when we all want to, want everybody to go home safe and everything, right? But when the value of somebody's life is more than a dog, you can really see how that some of us would view our lives, how our lives are viewed by them. The point here I'm trying to make here would be under the Ohio Constitution, all men are by nature free and independent and have certain inalienable rights. Among them, which are engaging in and defending in life and liberty, acquiring and possessing and protecting property. A dog may be somebody's fur baby at its very minimum, it is property. And seeking and obtaining happiness and safety. The 14th Amendment of the United States Constitution, Section 1, all persons born and naturalized in the United States and subject to this jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. No state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States, nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor deny any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the laws. And as far as like the law goes within the state of Ohio and the Ohio Revised Code, you can go to section 959.13, which is cruelty to animals, which would sum up the event that happened on July 2nd around noon on 8th Street and Broadway in the city of Lorain, which is within your jurisdiction. Just wanted to bring that to your attention, point out a couple areas where I think, Mr. Moore, you were on the board, Mr. Riddell, you weren't. About a year or so ago, I mentioned constitutional and institutional, and we have to make sure that we stay within the constitutional, but respect the institutional. And I think there's some balance here that needs to be adjusted, just from my eyes. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Mike. Aiden, did you come up again, or are you good? Tia, you had down for, did you want to speak on the? Okay. That's fine. Gerald? It's been here 2.5 years, and that's the first time I've seen you here. That wasn't the case, I heard, with Mr. Petticourt before.
Yeah, Jerry and I have known each other for a while.
Have
so.
ya? Okay.
Oh, we're fine. We're fine.
I like, yeah. It's
Gerald
nice.
W. Phillips, 461 Windward Way, Avon Lake, Ohio. Comment number one, the alternative form of government isn't going to decrease election costs. You're still going to have 2 staggered elections. 2, currently as far as time for the commissioners, there's no requirement as of now. They don't punch in and out. So a lot of the time is spent with the county administrator, and now it will be with the executive. So the new commissioners aren't going to punch in and out. They're just going to spend as much time as they deem necessary to get the job done. 3, 45 days before the election, everybody will get a copy what's going to be on the ballot. Number 4, a lot of people have agreed to this as a concept, but I haven't heard too much specifics as far as, the pros and cons of the different options, other than a 7-district map. I think it's not simple. I think it's a little more complex. I think it needs to be vetted a little more. 302.03A basically says you got 75 days to put it on the ballot before the election. That's August 24th. So voting it on Friday, I'm not in favor of. I think you need to vet it at a few more public forums. 6, 30205 gives you the option to put 2 of the proposed alternative on the ballot. You can put the county executive as elected or appointed, and you have that option, and I didn't hear anybody bring that up. Another option that exists, like they did in Lorain, and Tia and I did, the commissioners can pass a resolution to establish a commission, and then that commission can form a charter. That's always an option. So that's all I have.
Okay, thank you, sir. It's good to see you again. Mr. Hoagland, did you want to come back up, or you? Okay.
Brian Hoagland, 312 Rutgers Court, Elyria. I just want to make just a response. I was asked a question, so I'm going to answer it. My comment about the expense of candidates campaigning was that it wasn't in general. It was each candidate will spend less money when they have to go over 45,000 people as opposed to over 300,000 people of the whole county. Right now, a candidate, as you all know, have to campaign over the whole county, a whole geographical part of the county, 300,000 people. These candidates will have 45,000 in their local area that they have to campaign for. I think simple math tells you that that would be less expensive. That's my comment.
Okay.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Oh, thank you, sir. County Administrator, Mr. Armbruster. I'm sorry, that was your job, wasn't it?
No, that's okay. I was like, is he on public comment? Because you were looking.
Well, that was it.
Can we keep him to 2 minutes too?
No.
I'll try to keep it to 2 minutes. I'm not sure that I'm going to be able to, though. The administration and the entire staff.
Oh, I'm sorry. Here, give that back to me.
This one?
Yeah, I can't believe I forgot. Yeah, I missed.
Jeannie Ackerman. Jeannie Ackerman, right?
No, yeah, it was Jean. Come on up.
Anderson.
When she said no, I put her in the note. I put her in the other file. It is. My apologies, Jean. Come on up. Sorry.
She can do my report.
No. Well, she's a former mayor. She could just
I
like
don't
you.
think so, not tonight. Well, I just would like to speak to a principle. And sometimes I think principle in politics is kind of an oxymoron. But at any rate, we are talking about increasing the representation that people have in their government. So it's more we the people, right? We get 7 districts, and we're going to have more hands-on ability to elect the representative in our district. Given that, I would really like to stand in support of an elected executive. I do like 3 branches of government. I like the executive, judicial, and legislative. I think our founders had a good idea when they formed that as far as checks and balances is concerned. And I think if you really want to increase people's ability to have representative government, then we should really strongly consider electing our executive. That's it. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for coming in, and sorry for forgetting you. So, here you go. Oh, that's right. Homer, you did. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Oh.
I told people they wanted to talk twice, they should put it down twice, and Homer did. So. Sorry, Jeff. They just don't want to hear you.
Thank you, Commissioners. Still Homer Taft, 3972 Edgewater. I just thought I'd respond very briefly to a couple things that have come up on the appointed versus elected executive. Our request was simply not to make changes in more than the districts, and that's why we suggested it. You as commissioners have great experience with both things, and I would trust you all to make a good judgment. However, I would point out that the elected executive experience in Cuyahoga County, with which I'm intimately familiar for several years, has not been a particularly happy circumstance for most of that time. So I would take great care if you were to do that. I think it would be a not so good idea, as Mr. Phillips suggested, to have both on a ballot at the same time. There are nightmares that can occur and that I have seen occur, where two matters are on the ballot. One may get an infinitesimally slighter percentage of the vote, and one may get a few more votes. Which one wins?
The greater number in the statute.
Normally, yes, but I'm just saying it creates a horrific problem, and then it depends on which one's first and all the crazy things. So I think it's better to put a position forward that is a clear choice, and if others want to do something else, to petition for it or to change it or so forth or so on, they could. One other thing on candidate spending. When you have 7 districts, staggered terms, 4-year term, only about 135 to 160 some or so, 170,000 people are going to be involved in the elections in any given year. So you're not only closer to the people and therefore spending less money, but you're spending it on a fewer number of people overall each year. So yeah, it would be cheaper to run, but it's much more important that it's closer to the folks and folks know the people that they're electing much better. Thank you.
No one's raising their hand that I forgot, so there we go. Okay, Mr. County Administrator.
Thank you, Mr. President. Some more positive news. The administrative team continues to make a tremendous progress with New World. We met with, actually, New World came in with Tyler, brought Vesta Brody back with Christy Messenger, who's actually one of our contract employees that works for the county. And we met with all the jail personnel out at the county to talk about best practices that they brought forward. That prior meetings that we had with the jail personnel out there, all the staff, they listened to them diligently and came back with a plan, and I believe that we're going to put a lot of this in play with Tyler and try to move that program forward, which includes the pink sheet or green sheet or whatever you want to call it as it comes in from our police officers bringing their unfortunate person to the jail. That will mechanize and modernize that process, and hopefully one computer will be talking to the other, and they won't be hand doing that information as they're transferring the person from their car into the jail system for booking. With regards to the wireless system, MCM, we met with them again. The RFP request for proposals will be put out next week. It's actually ahead of schedule. Dan's office, I believe, got that out in form today or tomorrow. I think Lee is going to do that with MCM. When Karen gets back, and I'd like to have her eyes on it. She's been here for 32 years. I've only been here for a few months. I'd like to have her eyes on it, as well as my administrative staff, to make sure that just everything is there. We met with a group of us today administratively, and we do work as a team, not as an individual administrator. We work as a team and make decisions as a team. And sometimes I get outvoted, guys. And if Michelle
Yeah, I know how that
if
feels.
Commissioner Hong was there, it's sometimes difficult.
He pounced though when that happened.
Me or
Notice that?
him?
He pounced
He
when that
pounced.
happened.
Well,
But
explain what MCM is, though, because I know.
It's the contract going out for our tower system to actually, the CCI or the previous contract from this was taken off the ballot, or not off the ballot, but off the.
Let me step in here because we're talking about litigation now. MCM is a consultant that was hired to prepare a set of specifications which will go out to bid to allow the board to move forward in the direction that they intend to with the county emergency radio system. CCI is now a plaintiff against the county in a lawsuit based on a prior contract, which we all know all about. But MCM is a consultant that's developed a protocol and a set of specifications that we are finishing to prepare to send out for bid. Is that a
Right.
fair way to say it?
That is a fair way to say it.
And
a
that's
better
going
way
out
to
next
say it
week,
than I
right?
would say it.
Hopefully next week,
We're
right?
hopeful, in fact, the three major companies that we know that are going to bid on it, which we're reasonably certain and probably 99.9% certain, it would be Motorola, Johnson, and Harris would be the three companies that we're hopeful that will bid on the opportunity to build out this tower system within Lorain County. Moving beyond that, you know that we had several months ago, you put forth Conversant that was going to introduce Office 365 and bring like a dragnet around Lorain County's IT. That project continues to move forward, working with the prosecutor's office and a bunch of other things. That goes in, and we're hopeful that Office 365 or those employees that are not using it now, and I know there are some departments, such as the auditor's office, that is using Office 365 at this point, that the rest of us will be on Office 365 and move from where we are now, just in Office, to Office 365 in the cloud. And last but not least, I visited the Veterans Administration's new building that the county purchased. I want to shout out to Jacob Smith and Sarah Markle, who actually hosted me to a lunch, in which I wasn't expecting. I thought I was going to have to pay the lunch, and I told them I'm going to reciprocate back to them. But we had a great visit over there at the Veterans Administration. They've done a great job. Their parking lot is quite colorful. It is very large. The flags are great inside. They've just done a wonderful job with it to help our veterans, and I'm sure they're helping other veterans from other counties too, because I think their doors are open, but they're helping our veterans far better than than they were here in this area that we're in. So shout out to them, and look forward to working with them over the next several months.
One quick correction, it's Veterans, because Jacob does this to me all the time. It's the Veterans Service Commission, not the Veterans Administration. So Veterans Administration's Feds, Veterans Services Commission is.
These acronyms are killing me.
Yeah, hey, man, that's what I'm here for.
That completes my report.
Okay, and then on Friday for our meeting, we will be having another presentation, and I guess we'll have our team in place for that. We'll be discussing the countywide sewer system and what's going on next, so. Sometimes you gotta give people a head start on this, because it's exciting, so, there you go.
Okay. The only thing I have is Friday, we'll meet at 9:30. Tuesday, July 18th, we'll meet at 4:30. Commissioners meeting for calendar ditch hearing, that's the first hearing. Thursday, the July 20th, we're not having a land bank meeting, that's not till August.
Oh, we're not?
No,
Oh.
it's not till August 17th. And then Tuesday, July 25th at 11 will be in our investment advisory meeting, and then Tuesday, July 25th at 5 PM Commissioners meeting. Board correspondence?
Move to waive the reading of the board correspondence.
Second?
Discussion?
Yes, is this a good place to insert?
So, I don't know what you want to insert, but go
I
ahead.
just want to share with the crowd that we were very pleased this week. Karen Perkins was the front person. All four people that we solicited to give us an idea of how they would do a strategic plan for Lorain County to get ready for our 200th anniversary next year and lead us through the next 200 years. All four returned bids and prices, and the short committee is reviewing those and should have a decision to bring to the board to retain somebody to help us build our strategic plan for Lorain County going forward. So it's good news when 4 out of 4 bidders want your business.
Okay, Commissioner Moore.
Aye.
Commissioner Rendell.
Aye.
Any new business?
I don't have any, do you? Oh, I do like to say thank you for everybody that came in tonight. It means a lot when we hear input like this, and instead of emails, sometimes it's nice to hear it in person. So we do appreciate the attendance. And whether it's negative or positive, we need to hear it. So thank you. Thank you all for coming in. Meeting's adjourned.
There's only a few things, it's not a lot tonight.
No, let me sign those down. You have them?
Hey, haven't seen you in a while. How are you?
Oh.
No, that's, Katie. Literally.
That can still be done. Oh, yeah, no, I'd rather, no, that will probably, you know what, I ran at this.
Good, how are you? You can shut it
Have
off.
seven, and then you can actually use the chart.
Hi.
Dave, can you shut it off?
Oh, yeah.